Morning, everybody, and welcome to the first of our Revit Starter series. I'm Mark Calloway. I'm one of the application engineers here at Man Machine, and today we're going to be having a look at Revit project setup. So this is the first in our series. We're going to start from the beginning. We're going to create a new project. We're going to go through some of the basic steps involved, and we'll have a look at starting the project based on a template. We'll then have a quick look at the user interface of Revit. We'll have a look at creating some grids, some levels. We'll have a look at the location of the project, and then we'll have a look at the project browser and how we can organize that. Okay. So first of all, this is the Revit home screen. Okay. So most of the screen is taken up by our recent files, such as models and families. We're going to start a new project, and on the left-hand side we have our main menu. And just get my screen. There we go. So we can see on the left-hand side we have this little bit of a menu here. We're going to start a completely new model. So under models, I'm going to click on the new button, and it's going to give us this new project window here. Now, when we start a new project in Revit, we can create a project based on a template. Okay, we can choose not to have a template, but in pretty much all cases, you're going to want to use some form of template. Revit comes with a few standard ones preloaded to get you going, but you can create your own custom Revit template. Okay. Your templates are just a starting point for your project. So if there's certain line types that you use, your title blocks for your construction documents, certain content that you use on every single project, instead of having to set those up each time, you can create your own custom company template, and that'll already be there for you when you start a project. For today, I'm just going to go with one of the standard templates. I'm going to choose the architectural one. I'm going to select architectural template from this drop-down list. And then I'm going to click the OK button, and Revit's going to start as a new project based on the standard architectural template. Before we start setting up this project, I'm just going to run through the user interface briefly for you. Okay. So right in the very top left-hand corner, right up here, we have what's called the Quick Access Toolbar. This is fully customizable. You can add any of the tools from our ribbon bar onto this Quick Access Toolbar. And it just means they're available on screen, on demand, whenever you need them. There's going to be some common stuff up here, such as save and undo. You've got this little house icon here, which will take you into the default 3D view. But you can fully customize this just simply by right-clicking on those tools, removing those from the Quick Access Toolbar, and likewise, you can right-click any other button and add them to the Quick Access Toolbar. Some useful tools are already up there, and throughout the series we'll be picking on some of these, but feel free to customize that based on the tools that you commonly use. Directly below the Quick Access Toolbar, we have the ribbon bar. Okay, so this is the main menu essentially for Revit. We can find the majority of our tools on here. We're organized into tabs. So for example, at the moment I'm on the architecture tab, and we can find all our architectural tools in here. There's many tabs on here. So for example, we have a structures tab with all our structures tool. We've got a steel tab with all our steel tools. We've got an insert tab for linking in and importing files and annotate for all your dimensions and annotations. And then just skipping the bulk of these, right at the far end, we have the modify tab, where we can find our modify tools such as move and copy and rotate. Okay. So inside these tabs, the tools are further grouped together. So you can see that we've got a couple of groups here for properties, clipboard, geometry, and modify here. And then inside we've got the buttons themselves. If you move your mouse cursor over any of these buttons, if you have a bit of an explore, a little tooltip will appear. Some of them will give you an image. Some of them might give you a video animation on how to use that tool. So if you're ever stuck at what something is, you can just move your mouse over that. And you'll get this little tooltip appear here. Directly below there, we have the options bar. This is currently empty, but we'll see later on, maybe in the next series, we'll start building walls and geometry and all that sort of stuff. We'll get a lot of options in there. Below that, we have our main drawing window, okay, which we'll look at in a second. On the left-hand side, we have our properties window. Again, I'll go into a little bit more detail in a moment. And then below that, we have our project browser. Okay, so those are the main areas of Revit. Okay. So now that we're inside this new project, we're going to want to start to set this project up. The first thing I'm going to have a look at is the existing levels that are in this template. For that, we need to be in an elevation or section view. We go into the project browser. We have a category in here for views, and then we have some subcategories here for the types of views. Okay, we'll have a look at customizing this in a moment, but for now, I'm just going to go to my elevation views and open up the south elevation view. The south elevation view is going to open up my main drawing area. It's going to add itself as a tab at the top. So any views that you open will automatically tab themselves up here, and you can go back to them either by clicking on the tabs, or you can always go back to the project browser and give them a double click there. From the south elevation view, we can see where our levels are. This template started with 2 levels. So we have a level 0 and a level 1. We're going to add a few more levels into this project, and then we're going to customize these levels slightly. Okay. To create a new level, first of all, on the ribbon bar, I need to be on the architecture tab. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the ribbon bar. I'm going to go to that architecture tab, and I'm going to go to the datum group towards the right hand side. In there, I can find the tool for level. Simply left clicking on that will start the command. And then if I go to my main drawing area, to create a level 2, I can just move my mouse around. I just need to left click to choose where to draw the level line. If I move my mouse to the left and move it to the right a little bit, you can see I get this extension snap line when I'm lined up with the existing levels. I also get this temporary dimension that appears on the screen. So you can see that it's measuring off of level 1 there for me. So I can eyeball where I want level 2 to be. Now, as I move the mouse around the screen, Revit's going to look at other nearby elements and it'll change where that temporary dimension is coming from. Now, if I want to draw this one at 4,000 millimeters above level 1, I can eyeball 4,000. Or if I just roughly get it lined up straight, I can simply on the keyboard start typing 4,000, and it's going to start to overwrite that temporary dimension. And when I press the return key on my keyboard, it's going to start level 2 exactly 4,000 millimeters above level 1. So that's the first click there. I'm going to go up to the right. I'm going to line up with the ends of the other levels. Left click again, and that's going to create level 2 for us. Okay, so we've now got 3 levels in this project. Now, when you manually create your levels, one of the things that Revit does is it'll automatically create a series of views for that new level. If we just have a quick look at the project browser again, we go to views and floor plans, we can see now that there's a floor plan in there for level 2. Okay, and if we add a level 3 onto there as well, a level 3 floor plan will appear too. Okay, I'm just going to line my mouse up, manually type in the value for temporary dimension, and create a level 3. You can see we've now got a floor plan in there for level 3. Now, I don't want to go with the default naming for these levels. Maybe I want ground floor, first floor, second floor, third floor, or something along those sort of lines. So we're going to customize the naming of these levels. I can simply left click on level 0 in the main drawing area. And the properties window is going to display the properties for the element I've got selected, in this case level 0. If we have a look down here, we can find the property for name. I can click in the value box and I can overwrite that, type in ground floor. And if I click the apply button, Revit's going to automatically, if I want to rename the floor plans too, so we can see at the moment for level 0, the floor plan is called level 0. And if I just click yes to this button here, you can see that it's also going to update the name of the view as well. If you don't want that to happen, just simply click the no button when it prompts you, and it will update the name. So I can go through these levels and I can go to the properties window here and update the name. But as well as that, because the parameter is being displayed in the drawing area for the name of the level, I can click directly on the name and edit it in the drawing without having to go to the properties window. And I'm just going to name this one first floor. And again, it's going to prompt me if I want to update any corresponding views. And again, we can see first floor has updated there. And I'm just going to very quickly update the name of the main 2 levels. Now, at the moment, these views are just listed alphabetically. So we've got first floor, second floor, third floor, and then ground floor. So it's not really in order of the elevation of the project, but we can fix that later on when we're having a look at the project browser in a bit more detail. At the moment, the properties that we've been changing for these levels are called instance properties. So with the ground floor selected, if I look at the properties window, the list of parameters that we get here are called instance parameters. These are unique to that particular level. Okay, so I can give this level a completely different name to this level. But we have what's also called type properties. Okay, and looking at the properties window, we have this edit type button here. Now, these are the properties that are shared between all levels of the same type. Just to quickly demonstrate, if I'm going to click the edit type button, I'll just shrink this window so we can see what's going on at the same time. And we can see we have a type property here for the color. So this is the color of the level line, which is currently black. If I change any of these properties here, that will update the settings for all levels of this type. Okay. So where we have color, I'm going to click on there. I'm just going to pick something a bit different. We'll go with red. Click OK. Hit apply, and you'll see that even though it's only the ground floor I've got selected, because it's a type property, all levels of the same type are going to update with that parameter. Okay, so in Revit, we have instance properties, which are unique to the element selected, and we have type properties, which we can change and affect all elements of the same type. Okay, and there's uses for both of those. I'm just going to quickly change that. So these levels can exist as a type, and we know that all these are the same type of level. But maybe I want to change the type of level that these are. Okay. Again, just selecting the ground floor. If I go back to the properties window, right at the very top, we have what's called the type selector. We can see at the moment that we have a level selected, and the type of level is circle head project datum. If I left click on there, I can choose any other type that's available in the project. So maybe I don't want a circle head on our levels. Maybe I want a triangular head. I'm going to choose the type triangle head, and it's going to change that type of level. Okay. If I was to change the color of the level line now, you'll see that it's only changed it for that one level, because this type is now different to the other 3 levels there. Okay, but as soon as I change all of these, the triangle head type, it will grab the setting for the color. Okay. One of the last things I might want to do with these levels, if I just select any of one of these at random, is at each end of the level line, I've got these little circular grips. I can change the length of this level line. Just simply left click and hold down. I can drag the level to the right, and it's going to extend the length of that level line. But not only is it going to change the one selected, it's going to change all the other level lines that are locked into alignment with it. If you ever need to adjust one individually, all you need to do is click on this little padlock icon that's coming off of that little grip. And you can then unlock it from the other levels and adjust that manually. Okay. So that's my levels pretty much set up for the beginning of this project. The next thing we want to have a look at is setting up some sort of grid system in here. For that, I'm going to want to be in a floor plan view, and I'm going to go with the ground floor. Okay, so I can either click on the tab at the top of the main drawing area, or I can go to the project browser and double click on ground floor there. To start the grid command, on the architecture tab again, in the datum group, next to the level button, we have grid. Again, just left click on the grid, and it's a similar method to draw your grid lines as it is to level. I'm just going to start somewhere down in the bottom left, and I'm just going to draw a vertical grid line there. Revit's going to number that grid line number 1. And if I were to draw a second one in the same manner, that'll be grid line 2. I can do grid line 3 and grid line 4. Okay. This time when I created these grids, unlike the levels where I positioned them correctly to start with, I've just kind of slapped those in there. What I can do after placement is select the grid line, and again, Revit gives you these temporary dimensions. So if you just want to get the grids in there that you need, and then fine tune them afterwards, you can do. Okay. So maybe between grid lines 1 and 2, it needs to be 5,000 millimeters. I can simply left click on the temporary dimension, type in a new value and press enter, and Revit will adjust the dimensions there. Okay. Maybe that one needs to be 8,000 millimeters, and then that one can be 4,000 millimeters. I want to create a horizontal grid line as well. So same manner, back to the grid tool, drawing a horizontal grid line. But for my horizontal grid lines, maybe I want to use letters instead of numbers. Now Revit recognizes sequences, so it's automatically named this one grid line number 5. If I select the grid line in a similar manner to levels in the properties window, I can change the name there. I can click directly in the drawing area and I can change the name there. I'm going to set that as grid line A. And now when I come to drawing my next horizontal grid line, Revit recognizes the new sequencing events. And it's going to name this one B automatically. I can put in grid line B, grid line C, and grid line D. Okay. And Revit is just going to continue on with that sequence until I manually override one of the grid lines, and it will follow on from the new pattern. Again, similar to levels, if you need to adjust any of these, I have these little grips on the end. I can unlock it and I can adjust the lengths of any of these grid lines. Now your grid lines are 3-dimensional, so they do extend vertically through the project, even though we're looking at this in a plan view. If I was to go back to the south elevation view, we're looking from this point here in the south elevation view, I should see what we have here is the vertical grid lines, the ones that are numbered. Okay. We can see them extending through the project there. Okay. Again, we can adjust the lengths of these grid lines. So maybe grid line 4 doesn't need to exist on the 3rd floor. If I unlock it in an elevation view and reduce it so it's below the 3rd floor, when I now go to the 3rd floor level, I should see 1, 2, and 3. But because 4 doesn't extend that far, we no longer see that there. Okay. So just bear in mind the grid lines are 3-dimensional, as well as just in them in a 2-plan view. You can control them in an elevation view as well. Yeah. So with your levels and grids now set up, the next thing we're going to want to look at is the location of this project. We can't see it in this view, but we have what's called a survey point and a project base point. If I just go into our site floor plan, we can see those here. Okay, so one of the things we can do in Revit is we can control the visibility of elements between different views. This one's just set up so that we can already see these two elements here. We have a project base point, and in the exact same location, we have a survey point. Okay. I can select those and I can left click, hold down, and drag them about, just so that we can see them separately there. Now, ultimately, I want to place those on A1. I'll just very quickly go through the behavior of these two. Okay. If I click on the base point, you'll see now that that location is no longer 0, 0. If I select the survey point, we can see that that's set to 0, 0. If I move the survey point, you'll notice that its location never changes. It's always 0, 0. And if I select the project base point, as I move that around, you can see the values there changing, okay, compared to where it is from the survey point. If I put it back directly above, you can see it's 0, 0 there. We can unclick this survey point, okay. So with the survey point selected, we have this little paperclip icon to the left. If I click on there, it's no longer tied to the 0, 0. So as we move the survey point around, its coordinates will now update. Okay. So the behavior that we have is whilst it's clicked, you're essentially leaving the survey point where it is and you're moving the project around it, even though it doesn't look like it on the screen. And when it's unclicked, the project stays in the same place, and we're now moving that survey point around. Now what I can do is I can place that on grids A1. And if I click on these dimensions here, we can manually change these values. Okay. If I set this, oops, move that back there. So if I just change it back to 0, 0, it should move back to where it was before we changed it. There we go. And if I re-click it so that it's now locked as the 0, 0, I can then move that to A1. Okay. And I can then move the project base point and place that there as well. Okay. So one of the things you're going to want to do is set up the location of your project. So just bear in mind the behavior there between the survey point, the project base point, and the fact that you can click and unclick the survey point to update the coordinates. Okay. So once you've got your project positioned, you're next going to want to think about how it relates to north. Okay, because your project is highly unlikely to be perfectly aligned to north in the real world. Okay. Now, your project view is going to be automatically set to project north, which means you're always going to be nice and horizontal and vertical with your grid lines, unless you've got something custom. So with nothing selected, if we look at the properties window, it's going to display the properties for the view that you're currently looking at. We can see here that the orientation of the view is currently set to project north. So it doesn't matter whatever the angle is to the true north, it's always going to be nice and vertical and horizontal on your screen. If we change this to true north, which just happens to be the same at the moment, we can now customize that. If I go to the Manage tab on the ribbon bar, then in the group for project location, I go to Position. We can rotate the project relative to true north. Okay. Once you click on that, you get this little grip in the middle, and you get this little leader coming off. Okay, and we can choose by how many degrees we want to rotate this project. I just left click the start point, and for example, go clockwise, and maybe this project's going to be at an angle of 15 degrees. And again, just like with any other temporary dimension, you can just type in the value that you want. We can rotate our project by 15 degrees. Okay. Now you're not going to want to work at this angle. Okay. You're going to want to change your views back to project north. That way you can snap at nice vertical and horizontal and 90-degree angles. Okay. So I'm going to go back to my properties window. I'm going to go back the orientation. I'm going to change that back to the project north. And even though we've now changed the angle of this project to true north, we can now nicely work on this this drawing with nice horizontal and vertical lines. Okay. So that's the location of this project setup. The next thing we'll have a look at is the project browser. Okay. So we've created our levels, we've set up the grids, we've located our project. We now want to organize the views. Okay. So at the moment, the way the project browser is set up is we have this heading here for views, where we can find all our views. It's then organized by the type of view, and then in there, we have the views themselves, which are just alphabetically ordered. Maybe I want to have architectural plans and structural plans in the same model. And maybe I want to organize the views by type and then based on their elevation within the project. We can fully customize it. if I right click on views, in the context menu that appears, I've got browser organization. If I click on there, we get this browser organization window. It's going to display any settings that have been pre-created. We're going to create a new one. So I'm just going to simply click the new button on the right-hand side here. Just to point out, even though it's the view that we're going to set up on this example today, you can do exactly the same with all your sheets and all your schedules as well. Clicking new, we have to give it a name. I'm just going to very plainly call it B01 for browser organization 1. And it's going to open up the properties window for this new browser organization. Filtering, I'll come back to that in a moment. But what we're concerned with immediately is the grouping and the sourcing of our views. This is where we can choose the levels in which to group our views under. So at the highest level, I'm going to want to control our views based on their discipline. So where it says group by, I'm going to click on the drop down. I'm going to select discipline. And then on another level below that, we're going to group them based on type. So we'll have a heading for architectural, for example, and then under there, we'll have floor plans. Right at the bottom, we can choose how the views are sorted at the lowest level. So at the moment, it's by view name, which is technically alphabetical. If I do it based on its associated level, it will start with the lowest level views, and then it'll work its way to the highest level views. So I'm going to click associated level there. I OK that. It'll add our new browser organization to the list in this project. I'm going to tick the button. And when I OK this window, you'll notice that the project browser will update with the new settings. Okay. So now under views, we have a heading for architectural. And then under there, we have the headings, the type of view. And then under there, we have the views themselves. You can see now that the base on the associated level, so we have our ground floor and site plan, which are at 0. And then we've got first floor at 4,000 millimeters, second floor and third floor. Okay. So we've now organized them based on their elevation there. Now, I briefly mentioned filtering, so we'll take a look at that now. So we can filter what views actually appear in the project browser. Maybe you want some sort of system where any view that you're currently working on is available, but any views that have been added onto a sheet or construction document is removed from here. So they're complete and you don't want them to appear. Again, if I just go back into the settings for our B01, on the filtering tab, we can choose what we want to filter by. For this particular one, I'm going to look at the property for sheet name. So when you're looking at the views properties, there'll be a parameter in there for the sheet name. Now, if it hasn't been added onto a sheet, that value is going to be blank. So I'm going to leave the argument the same for equal to, and I'm going to leave the value empty there. So it's only going to display any views where the property sheet name is blank. Okay. Now, as soon as you add a view onto a sheet, that's going to fill in with the name of the sheet. It'll fail this rule and it should disappear from our project browser. Clicking OK and OK again, nothing's going to change because we've not added anything onto a sheet yet. If I just go into this empty sheet that we have, and for example, place the ground floor onto the sheet, it should disappear from the views category. So I'm going to left click and hold down. I'm going to drag the ground floor view over the sheet, left click to place, and we can see that the ground floor has now disappeared from our views category there. If you ever want to access the ground floor view again, it hasn't gone completely from the project browser. It now exists as a child object underneath the view there. Okay. And that's always the case regardless of your filtering. You can always expand the sheet and access the views. Okay. So that's some of the basics that you want to look at when starting your project. So we've had a look at picking a template to base our project from. We've created some new levels. We've modified those levels by renaming them changing the elevation, altering the colour, changing the types. We've set up our grid system and looked at the behaviour of how Revit does naming sequencing. We've located our project, we've changed the true north and how we can set our views to looking at the project north or true north. And we had a little play at organising our views in the project browser. So that completes our introduction to our Revit project setup. In the next video in our series, which is on the 1st of March, if you want to sign up for that, we're going to have a look at our first model in Revit. So we'll start using some of the tools, drawing walls, creating floors, and settings and stuff associated with that. And we'll build something in here, and we'll start looking at the 3D setting. So again, that's on the 1st of March. Feel free to sign up to that. Yeah. So that's all from me. And until next time, see ya.